Google appears to be panicking after they crossed the line in announcing a ban on a conservative website called the Federalist. You may have seen the story, but for those that aren't familiar, the other day, an NBC News journalist announced that they had teamed up with some left-wing activist organizations, one of which isn't even in the United States, contacted Google and told them to ban, basically, alerted them to some problematic content from the Federalist. A spokesperson for Google confirmed they did ban the Federalist. But this led to a major backlash. And then all of a sudden, Google comes out saying, no, we didn't actually ban them. Oh, but it is too late. Ted Cruz blasts Google over the Federalist treatment. He's written a letter to Google making some requests for communications between the activist groups and Google, basically calling them out. And Google may have just opened up some serious antitrust vulnerabilities. They may have just exposed their soft underbelly. And now we are looking at potentially Google getting some, there may be some action taken against Google. This could be, I don't know, the catalyst perhaps that breaks Google up, or at least in some capacity. Now, I got to be completely honest, though. We are seeing some moves get made. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Republicans targeting Google, Google's hypocrisy on full display, Google's their monopolistic abuse of power. I'm sorry, though. I am not confident anything will be done. The GOP, in my opinion, is toothless. Look, I got respect for Hawley and Ted Cruz trying, but I'm not confident because they've tried before and nothing ever happens. And you know what? I got to be honest. When these people all lose re-election, the Republicans, I'm going to laugh about it. To be real, they've had every opportunity to listen to every single personality, every influencer, every creator, every independent journalist who is either moderate or conservative, politically homeless, intellectual dark web, to say they are coming for you and they will destroy you. And what do? Sitting around doing nothing. Okay, maybe that's a little naive of me. Maybe it's a little arrogant. I don't know what they've been doing. Maybe there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, and maybe this does succeed. But I got to say, man, this has been going on for years, and nothing has happened. How many hearings have we had where Ted Cruz pulled up, Google and said, what are you doing, or Twitter or whatever, and they do nothing? I sat across the table from Jack Dorsey, and what happened? Nothing. They said, thank you for your feedback, and they continue to do this. We are 5 months away from an election, and you think they'll stop now? Now, this one, Google, I think they are panicking. I think they realized that by going after the Federalist, they seriously exposed the vulnerability. Maybe that's what the GOP actually needs to make some moves against Google. Let me show you the tweet real quick that I put out, and we'll explain what's going on. I said, NBC contacted Google and complained about Zero Hedge and the Federalist. Google then promptly banned both from their ad network. Now, Google has since changed the story dramatically. The lead doesn't even make sense. Take a look at this. This is what gets loaded on Twitter. Google bans 2 websites from its ad platform over protest articles. The 2 sites, Zero Hedge and the Federalist, will no longer be able to generate revenue from any advertisements served by Google Ads. However, Google then came out shortly after the publication and said the Federalist was never demonetized. We just want them to remove their comment section. Oh boy. Was that a mistake? Everything they did. I'll tell you what, man, look, you want to complain about Republicans or you think they're doing a good job, put that aside. Google, in panic, really hurt themselves. Check this out. They say they wanted, here's what they said. As the comment section has now been removed, we consider this matter resolved and no action will be taken. Section 230 states that a web service provider will not be held responsible for comments or for content posted by users to their site. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but the general idea is if you comment on my site, that's not my speech, that's not my responsibility. Google hides behind Section 230 as a shield for literally everything Google does. Search results, for instance. YouTube, for instance, like what I'm saying Google won't be held responsible for my speech right here. Oh, but Google, you done made a mistake. You mean to tell me that you will hide behind Section 230, but then you will claim the comments on the Federalist are the responsibility of the Federalist? You see, you want to have your cake and eat it too. Technically, you can. But this is a major vulnerability that now many of these other companies, many of these other politicians might say, you can't do that. And that needs to change. And it creates a clear path to changing Section 230, which could be bad for everybody. Let's talk about anti-monopolistic endeavors that could be taken up against Google. Google removed the Federalist, according to the spokesperson. Now take a look at this article. NBC News has changed it, and now the story makes literally no sense. This is why I believe Google is lying. They say Google bans website Zero Hedge from its ad platform over comments on protest articles. A Google spokesperson said in an email that it took action after determining the website violated its policies on content related to race. Now, they may have changed it, but check out this quote from Google. We have strict publisher policies that govern the content ads can run on and explicitly prohibit derogatory content that promotes hatred, intolerance, violence, or discrimination based on race from monetizing. When a page or site violates our policies, we take action. In this case, we've removed both sites' ability to monetize with Google. Google spokesman, you actually said to NBC, or NBC's lying, that you've removed both sites. So why walk this all back? Perhaps it's because Google is a publisher. Now, a lot of people talk about the publisher versus platform distinction. That's not super relevant. It is relevant, but it's not the big vulnerability. The issue here is an issue that can be brought up. If Google itself is a publisher, that means it directly competes with the Federalist. And guess what? Regardless, it does. The Federalist can serve ads on its own platform and monetize this. How does Google make sure they dominate the market and destroy all other publications? This is how you do it. Now, the Federalist uses Google Ads, but the Federalist can use other ad networks, right? Here's what these companies like Google do. They will tell you you're in violation of their policies, and if you want to monetize, you got to bend to their rules, which removes comments on the Federalist, literally giving a community forum advantage to Google's own platforms. Let me break this down for you. People use comment sections to debate and discuss ideas. YouTube has a comment section where people debate and discuss ideas. Google and the Federalist are competing with each other for viewership. Google threatening the Federalist will create a space over time where the only way you can talk about these ideas is to actually be on Google's platform. That is monopolistic power, where they are crushing their competition. Now, Google isn't a publisher the same way that Federalist is, but that's not relevant. They do compete. Google wants your eyes on their platform to sell ads. The Federalist wants your eyes on their platform to sell ads. Google dominated the ad space, basically forcing everyone to use it because they're a monopoly, and then using that power to advantage their own company that allows racist and bigoted comments, but would remove it from the Federalist. That is extreme monopolistic abuse. So Ted Cruz writes a letter, and I think I have it somewhere. Let's see if we can pull it. Here we go. This is the letter from Ted Cruz. He said, the recent actions of Google to demonetize a conservative media publisher, the Federalist, raise serious concerns that Google is abusing its monopoly power in an effort to censor political speech with which it disagrees. Now, here's another example that Ted Cruz brings up. It could be political. We know that following the election of Donald Trump, this is from a left-wing site, The Verge. They released a video showing Google employees extremely distraught about the election of Donald Trump, to say the least, and talking about the things they can do to change that. They say, oh, but this is just a hands-on meeting. Don't worry, we're not biased. Now they're banning conservative sites, but they're not banning progressive sites that also run offensive and derogatory comment sections. What you have to understand, right? Let me bring this up. What Ted Cruz mentions is that there's a bunch of other left-wing sites that don't get targeted. Let me read his letter a little bit for you. He says, this is part of a bigger problem. The culture of free speech in this country is under attack, and Google is helping lead the charge. Whereas Americans once understood the best response to speech was more speech, some Americans, with the help of some of the most powerful companies on the planet, are now pressing to silence and punish those expressing views that do not align with the prevailing and ever-shifting progressive orthodoxy. These individuals demand that people with different views lose their livelihoods if they step out of line. Employers must fire dissenters. Companies like Google must, to use the most Orwellian term, demonetize them. As evidenced by its actions yesterday, Google seems more than happy to play this censorship role by trying to break the financial back of a media publication with which it disagrees. As NBC News reported, The Federalist, a conservative media organization and publisher, was banned from generating revenue from any advertisement served by Google Ads. According to the report, Google took this action after NBC News verification unit, apparently working at the behest of the so-called Center for Countering Digital Hate, notified Google that the Federalist had published an article claiming that the media had been lying about looting and violence during the protests, which were both included in the report sent to Google. Now, I want to stop there. They backtracked like crazy. But the first report that came out, NBC sent an article where the Federalist was critical of NBC. So NBC says, don't mock us. How dare you? Hey, Google, look at this. And then Google says, you banned because we got NBC's back. Well, they backtracked rather quickly because I think they just realized when you break out into the real world and start demonetizing independent companies, especially ones with massive financial backing, which some people presume the Federalist probably has, well, now you're in trouble. Google's powerful. They absolutely are. But this is why we have government to regulate the private sector. Now, what he goes on to talk about is he mentions a bunch of other websites. I think it's on the next page. Check this out. He says, Google's decision to target the Federalist is transparently politically motivated. Numerous progressive media outlets allow comments, including the Huffington Post, Mother Jones, Daily Kos, Talking Points Memo, Wonket, Slate, Jezebel, The Root, Salon, The Intercept, The Young Turks, and many others. I don't know what the objectionable comments were that individual users might have posted on the Federalist, but any objective review would no doubt demonstrate at least as many profane, racist, or indefensible user comments on these other sites that would equally violate Google's alleged standards. What you got to understand here is that comment sections, as I mentioned, are used for debate. In my comment sections, there's often lefty people on Twitter, especially, who say dumb things to me. And there are people on the right who say dumb things to me too. Everybody says dumb things. And then you get the left and the right saying some smart things. But the fact is, I'm highlighting the small percentage of really dumb things said by a lot of people. These left-wing websites are not just loaded with left-wing comments. The left might say, well, yes, but the right-wing MAGA chuds were posting racist bigotry in the comments, and Google said we don't want that on our service. Right-wing MAGA chuds also go to these other left-wing sites and smack talk in the exact same way. Left-wing people and right-wing people go to comment sections of various YouTube channels and post comments. So the point is, Ted Cruz is right. If you want to argue the left isn't engaging in this behavior, I would say you're wrong. The left is probably posting tons of racist things. But you could argue then that Google is biased and that's the kind of racism they support. They're specifically targeting a certain kind of speech. I can break it down even easier for you. If you think right-wing speech is what's being banned here, then why, I assure you, right-wing speech is appearing on these left-wing comment sections. 100%. I know because I've read them before. In which case, this is Google specifically targeting a right-wing publication. And I think this is all going to be very easily provable, which is why Google panicked, backtracked, even after they already issued a statement saying they banned the Federalist. I think they realized they've got antitrust coming their way. They've got accusations of election interference. I mean, this one's going to cut deep. This was them finally stepping over the line, and they realized it too late. I can only imagine that when they banned the Federalist, and then all of a sudden their lawyers, their phones started lighting up like crazy. The lawyers started calling all these executives like, what did you do? No, you can ban someone on YouTube, man. That's your platform. But when you do an ad network deal with someone, that's a contractual, like they're hosting your ads. This is different. You're banning them from an ad network for extremely obvious, like, wow, this is crazy. So Ted Cruz asks some questions. He says, it is also deeply ironic that Google is financially, he mentions this. He says, one need not look that far. On any given day, there are thousands of profane, racist, and indefensible comments posted on YouTube, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Google. That right there, boom, antitrust. Google hosts comments. YouTube's comments are rule breaking, according to their own ad network. But Google will run its own ads on its platform and then ban other people for the exact same type of content, comments. That shows you right there. This is a monopolistic abuse. And I think Google's probably already sitting down. Their lawyers are drafting their nuclear options, and they're probably sweating bullets like, well, we did it. Here it comes. And they might lose. Now, like I said in the beginning, unfortunately, I think the Republicans have no teeth. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything about this. I really, really don't. I am not confident, especially this close to an election. Really doubt it. Sorry, man. Look, Ted Cruz, I think this is a great letter. I think it's very intelligent. I think he makes a bunch of really, really great points. And I think literally nothing will happen. End of story. They need to amend Section 230. Perhaps Section 230 should state, so long as you're only removing unlawful speech or something to that effect. And then there could maybe be some kind of debatable provision. I don't know. It's tough because posting gore and things like that, that was the original intent. Like if someone posts a video of like gore, you know what I mean? Like legit, really nasty stuff. It's not illegal, but they can delete it. Well, now we're at an impasse because they've used that and abused that to enrich themselves, to shut down their competition, their market competition, and advance their own political ideology. This is what we're seeing here with the Federalist. The Federalist is direct competition, but it's also political competition. It's political, it's ideological and monetary competition with NBC and Google, and they teamed up to take down a competitor. That's crazy to me. So Ted Cruz asks some questions. He says, or he has some requests. Within 7 days, by June 24th, Google is requested. You see what I mean about no teeth? I'm sorry, man. Look, I can respect you asking the questions, but I know what Google's going to say. They're going to take one look at this and they're going to go, F you. And they're going to crumple up and throw it in the trash. That's what'll happen. Here's what Ted Cruz is asking for. He wants Google is requested to provide to the subcommittee the following. All communications in the past year between Google and the NBC News verification unit concerning the Federalist. All communications in the past year between Google and the Center for Countering Digital Hate concerning the Federalist. All internal communications or deliberations in the past year at Google or YouTube concerning the Federalist. Google is also requested to answer in writing by June 24th the following questions. Has Google examined the comment section of any of the progressive organizations listed in this letter and made any assessment whatsoever how they compare the comments on the Federalist that were claimed as a basis for demonetization? 2. Will Google apply the same standards to all media organizations or just those with which it has political disagreements? 3. Does Google believe Section 230 protects the Federalist? Why or why not? 4. If any offensive comments appear on YouTube, will Google begin immediately demonetizing its subsidiary within 3 days, the deadline given to the Federalist? Now, I want to be honest. YouTube did do that. They did start targeting people based on their comment section for sure. Now, this is the issue with Google, with YouTube's comment section isn't about whether the comments are offensive. It's about them banning the comment section, banning the Federalist over essentially the same comments. Now, you could argue YouTube has an auto filter, which filters out a ridiculous amount of things, even things that aren't offensive. And they can argue, well, the Federalist, their comment section doesn't have these filters, so there are things appearing on the Federalist that don't appear on YouTube. However, people bypass these filters using clever workarounds, spacing letters out. So I assure you on YouTube, they do exist. So yeah, YouTube, you're going to demonetize everybody now, including myself, because you want to demonetize a Federalist. You see how this comes back to hurt you and everybody else. But more importantly, the bigger question I have about comments is not the content, but it is the market competition. Okay, so Ted and everybody else and Josh Hawley, think about this. People like to go online and debate each other. People like to go into comment sections and debate each other. And sometimes those debates get offensive. YouTube is trying to remove a publisher that attracts eyeballs and allows a forum for debate. Right now, because of Google, if you want to have that debate, you have to go to Google. Not entirely, but they've gotten rid of a competitor in a online forum debate space. They have forced the Federalist to remove that function from their site in which they directly compete. So that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that sounds like it's an issue, right? Ted Cruz says, is Google's preferential treatment to YouTube on far more favorable terms than those extended to the Federalist consistent with the Sherman Act? Why or why not? Thank you for your attention to this matter. I look forward to your response. So look, I'm glad to see that Josh Hawley Josh Hawley's launching now, targeting big tech's shield. He's got several coming up. I'm glad to see they're actually making these moves. I just don't think anything is going to happen. I got to be honest. And you know what, man? We're really close to an election. So what's going to happen? If the Republicans lose the Senate or lose more of the House or can't take the House, or if Joe Biden wins, congratulations. I think we will see something so horrific in terms of the rapid escalation of censorship, of the banning of art and books and movies. I don't know if this country can recover from this, because they talk about the silent majority, right? What does that mean? Does that mean there's a bunch of people who believe in free speech who are sitting on their hands waiting until the house burns to the ground before they get off their asses and actually go and do something? Perhaps. It's unfortunate, man. Something needed to be done a long time ago. And I think I made the video 2 years ago where I said Republicans were too stupid, not the voters, the politicians, because the voters are screaming about it. They're getting banned. They're mad. And I said the politicians were too dumb. They don't realize what the media has been doing, how they've been lying. And we are literally now at the point where NBC, a massive and major corporation with heavy leftist political biases, has teamed up with a foreign activist organization to get an American media publication stripped of its ad revenue. There's a lot more problems here, notably that Google dominates the ad space as it is. They have a monopoly on ads, on search. Facebook controls social media for the most part. Twitter controls public conversation. These companies own everything. We need to be protected from them. I don't know the answers. And so, look, you can slap all the criticisms at me that I can bring these things up and I can point these things out, and there's not much I can do about it. That's fair, 100%. So for all the criticisms I have for the Republicans who haven't got anything done, sure. I think it's fair to point the finger at me and say, yeah, well, what am I doing about it? Yep. I think it is fair to say I'm bringing these things up, and I've been warning repeatedly saying, hey, guys, look at this thing. And maybe that's not enough, but I'm not a politician. And maybe it's a lot harder to actually do these things than I realize. So that I'll be fair about that. So let me take back any personal and perceived personal slides and say it's not my intention to say that Hawley or Cruz or any of these other Republicans are themselves not good enough. I did say the Republican politicians were too stupid. Maybe that was a bit too strong. What I should say is they haven't gotten the job done. And because they haven't gotten the job done for whatever reason, be it political impossibilities or a lack of will or a lack of capability, maybe too late. Now, look, I know Google flipped backwards fast, did a quick backflip freaking out. But maybe it's too late. And I think Google's probably thinking they're going to be fine. I don't think we have the political unity right now to do anything. But I will tell you, I tell you what, Elizabeth Warren, Ocasio-Cortez, there have been a lot of people calling out big tech monopolistic powers. Now, the problem with the left is they want more censorship. So you know what I think will happen? There is a willpower in government for regulation of social media. And perhaps what we may see is one of two things. The ineffective GOP doing nothing, sending a letter and making requests, and then nothing happens. And then ultimately, the Democrats come in and regulate. And the Republicans just say, whatever, we're not going to get anything done. So the left comes in, destroys Google, imposes a whole bunch of crazy restrictions on them, destroys their businesses, and they dry up. Something else might happen. There may be bipartisan support for some kind of stripping of Section 230. Because think about it this way. The Democrats are upset that these sites won't ban hate speech. The Republicans are upset that they're not playing fair. There is a mutual agreement that can emerge between the two. If you have hate speech on a platform that won't go away, and you want it to go away, but they won't listen, what do you do? Now, if you have them censoring conservatives and propping up their political opponents and empowering their enemies, what do you do? Well, the Republicans say, stop doing this and play fair. The Democrats say, start banning hate speech. But when these big tech platforms don't do either, and nothing gets done, then I think you can see where the political unity will lie. Destroy them. Completely destroy them. Google, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, anybody else. Light them up. You know why? That'll get rid of the hate speech and it will get rid of the political bias. Light them up, and I'll keep the hyperbole a little low here. But I think that's the political unity. Seeing someone like Ted Cruz team up with AOC and say, we just want to destroy these companies at this point because no one likes what they're doing. They haven't a friend in the world. That's what Mike Cernovich said. The regulation will come for them and they won't have any friends. But I think you might see look, in order to get this through, you're going to need a lot of votes. All right. Maybe you'll need the House. Well, if the House is Democrat, the Senate is Republican right now, what can they do? Chop them up to tiny little bits, nuke these companies into oblivion. Congratulations, Google. You had a chance. You could have done, to be fair, though, I did bring up another good point in that All these companies are really doing, for the most part, is hedging their bets. Who do they think will win? And which good side can they try and be on? For the longest time, they've pandered to the left, thinking the left is going to win. And so they need to do what the left wants. Well, it's not going to work out that way. Perhaps you should have adhered to some kind of standard, and then you could have had some kind of legal argument as to how you're just abiding by the law. Hey, the First Amendment would have been a great one. You could have said, look, even though it doesn't affect private companies, we have to maintain some principle, and the First Amendment is it. And it would have been a really hard argument to beat if they did. They didn't. They pandered to the left, and now you got a feud between who gets to have that power. Bye-bye, Google. Bye-bye, Facebook. I don't know if it'll be Republicans because I think they're rather toothless, but the Democrats are fervent and crazy. So I think they'll do something, so something's going to happen. I don't know. I guess all we can do, as per usual, is wait till November to see how people really feel about things. But I am really worried about what happens if the Democrats win and they start exacerbating all of the censorship. Then, channels like this will be a thing of the past, and you will be expected to go to church every, Monday. What day will they pick? I don't know. And you'll go to the park and you'll sit down with your legs folded, holding your hands in the air, and you will mindlessly chant like they did in Bethesda. Go watch that video if you haven't. The new religion coming your way. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.